Boo. Hello, hello. How are we doing today?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Doing good. Let's start with you introducing yourself.
My name's Chris Vertigo. I own Vertigo Glass, Vertigo Lathes, Vertigo Engineering.
And so, why did you choose the name Vertigo?
I read a book when I was in college, and they're like talking about naming your business. They said, if you're driving around, write down all the interesting words you see and go look them up. And so then, like, I came across the word vertigo on a billboard, and then I went and looked it up, and I was like, oh, that's gonna fit.
Oh,
That's
man.
fitting. That's gonna work.
Interesting. What's the first thing you made in glass?
Copper enamel glass beads with my grandpa.
So, explain that a little bit more.
So the copper enamel is a little bit different. You'll take like a bead mandrel and then a solid piece of copper tubing. Well, I guess a short piece of copper tubing. Then you get that hot, and then you roll it in glass frit. And then it sticks to the copper. And then once it cools off, then you pull it off, and it's got a copper core inside of the glass bead. And then after that, we moved on to making other beads and sculptures and little things like that as well.
Okay. So, how'd you get started in glass?
Grandpa got us started. He was did a lot of rocks and gems and stuff like that with rock hound and faceted, and was just always had some kind of new hobby. And then my mom really fell in love with it, and so I built her studio, and then I was out in her studio, and it just snowballed from there.
And so, how old were you when you started blowing glass out?
So the first time when I was messing around with my grandpa, I was probably 8 or 9,
Okay.
and then but I didn't really get like a serious start till I was in my early 20s.
So I was gonna say you're saying you built your
Yeah,
mom's studio, so that had to have been a little bit later.
yeah,
Then.
yeah, yeah.
So building the studio at eight.
I
Okay.
built her studio in my mid 20s.
Interesting. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's when you kind of started taking a little bit
Yep.
more serious. Okay. So who are some of the big influences when you started?
Luke Wilson, always forever foremost, man. That guy taught me everything I know, from how to make stuff, sales, just everything. I was lucky enough that he was local to me. Um, Met him through, I was taking some glass classes at a local college doing soft glass, and he came through, and I met him, and we hooked up, and it was ever since then.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How far along into well, okay, so how far along into taking glass seriously do you feel like you were at that, or were you already at that point?
I was pretty serious about it. I kind of was in the midst of this whole ordeal of, do I make pipes? Do I just want to make, you know, soft glass art or sculptures or all of this stuff, because I didn't have the connections to, all the shops or any of that. And back then it was still it was a real closed door society back then.
Yeah, it sounds like you were more familiar maybe with some of the other types of glass.
Correct. Yeah,
Maybe
correct.
some of the other people could have taken some other lanes
Correct.
because you were a
Yeah.
little more familiar with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, where did you first sell your glass?
Wicked Sands and Jay's Paradise from Jay from Roar.
Oh, and
Yeah.
what were you selling to
Pipes and chillums, little spoon pipes, inside out Frit stuff, um,
them? Okay,
and
so
got beat down on the weekly on case prices from those two.
yeah.
Yeah.
What year was that?
Oh shit. Probably 2004,
Okay.
somewhere around there, the early 2000s.
And so you
Yeah.
you started selling pipes, so all the other stuff was kind of just figuring it out kind
Right.
of thing, and then
Yeah.
by the time you started selling
Yeah.
stuff, you had already kind of gotten into the functional
Yeah. The
things.
glass stuff, I was building cars and stuff like that, and so the glass stuff was kind of a hobby. And then it got to the point where it was like I was making more, once I started selling pipes, it got more into, um, to the point to where I was losing money by being at my quote unquote real job, working on cars all day. So then I just made the transfer straight in, full time.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Are there certain objects that you made at the start that you still make?
Um, a lot of line work stuff still,
Yeah.
Sherlocks, little spoon pipes. It's just something I always keep going back to, especially if I've taken a long time off. It's always my go-to is to just go back to what I've known forever.
Hmm.
It's always been the easiest thing for me to do. I can jump on the lathe and make some basic shapes, basic cups, stuff like that, but it takes me a little bit to get my feet back under me on the lathe.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So this question is a little different for you because the question
yeah.
is, what did the scene look like when you first started? You can kind of, if you want to talk about pipe scene more, or you can kind of just talk about what the glass scene looked like when you were a kid. I think both are really
So the pipe scene to me was wild because I had never been involved in an industry that was so closed door. You know, even if you were a friend and people knew that you were coming over and you would go to a shop, you know, it was, you know, you hear the old school stories that, you know, torches went off whenever a new person would walk in. And it was like that. You know, you get pressed. Um, People don't want you in their shop. They don't want you watching their techniques, you know, because it was definitely not as free flowing and all love, especially down in Southern California back then. There was a big wall, a big divide.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Again, so what year? You might have already said, but what year was that again?
That's probably, I would say, anywhere, I would say probably from 2004 to 2008 is when I really was like, I'm going to do this, whether you guys want me in or not,
And so, do you feel like you kind of were just like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna keep making these pieces
you know?
and slinging them
Yeah,
around and
100%,
keep pushing it, and I'll figure it
100%.
out."
Yeah,
Yeah, great, man. Seems like
yeah,
it worked.
yeah.
What inspires your work the most right now?
Currently, the people around me. Um, you know, like a lot of my stuff has transferred more into the lathe making. But as far as the glass stuff, like my roommate Sarah, I like making stuff with her and you know making little attachments for her, or her make attachments for me, and we just throw shit together. I still will always. I'm if I ever get back into it full time, like I really want to get back into the ready thing.
Hmm.
You know, high line count ready work was always been my struggle, and I still feel like I have to like conquer that sometime. You
Yeah,
know?
that big hill to overcome.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, I feel like we should also kind of talk about like what inspired you to start making glass lids.
So at the time when I had the Vertigo Glass thing going full time, Luke Wilson and we had a few lathes in our production shop and needed more lathes, and we just could not source them. We went to every auction that we could find. They were just impossible to find at the time. Even if we did find them at auction, there was a guy and he would just overbid on things just so to make sure that he had the market closed down.
Uh,
And so I just thought like, hey, that can't be that hard to make. You know, I've done hot rod machine work, and there's a machine shop at Covington Engineering, like right next door to me. At the time when we were in Redlands, and so I bought a little program and bought a little CNC machine and started figuring some stuff out. And then it just was a wormhole. And you know, there was a few people in the industry that told me that I could never do it and that it wouldn't be done. I couldn't make it, and I think that drove me more to do it than the fact that we needed more lathes.
yeah, it seems to be the case with me in those kind of situations too,
Yeah,
where it's the doubters that make you kind of
one
want
hundred
to push
percent.
through it.
Yeah, 100%.
It might be lathes, but what's your favorite thing to do outside of glass?
Windsurfing and build hot rods.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yep.
Is there a specific kind of hot rod that you enjoy building a lot?
Uh, Currently, I'm getting ready to get started back on my 37 Ford pickup, and then I also have a 54 Mercury as well.
That's going over my head, but I'm
Yeah.
sure there's going to be some people that are really stoked about
Yeah.
hearing this. What's your favorite thing to make right now?
Oh, right now is painting.
Hmm.
Right now is painting. Like I'm really getting back into painting, like whether it be cars or skateboard decks or lathes. Like I'm painting some, you know, I've got a list of lathes that I'm finishing up right now, and they're all going to have some pretty, you know, and what I consider pretty wild paint jobs on them.
Great.
Yeah.
What do you hope the scene looks like in 10 years?
Hopefully we've recovered. You know, this is not the first time we've been through this, and it won't be the last. But man, 10 years. I hope that everybody's living comfortably, and all the color companies are back up and running, and you know, everybody's just having a good time.
Great. What do you feel more glass blowers should be paying attention to?
Their own personal health, whether it be mental, physical, you know, the whole deal. I think a lot of times it's easy for us to be so isolated away from everybody. You know, whether it's just you working in your garage by yourself all the time, or even in your shop, like you never say shit to your shop mates for weeks on end. You know, so mental health, I think, is one of the biggest things. That and your eyeballs. You know,
Great answers.
yeah.
Last question. What do you hope to accomplish in glass?
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, the lathe thing honestly was my accomplishment. I feel like to have the machines that I have out there by the people that own them and they have had the faith in me to put that much money up, especially on the front end of things with people like Joel Halen. You know, it means the world to me, to have them support me through that whole thing. But still want to get that goddamn Reticello down.
There you go.
But
Great. Thank you, man.
yeah.